Some of the things that you may have been seeing in the newsletters recently are these pop-ups of our office volunteer just completed JotForm Academy. And you're like, who is a JotForm and what is the academy? Our office volunteers have always been kind of swept in and learning the stuff that is aligned with assessment. This is the assessment you have to do here. This is how you facilitate it. But what about some of the skills that can also be pivoted for those who are younger volunteers and doing internship hours or still exploring where they want to fall in within the workforce? JotForm Academy, which connects to a platform called JotForm, is what we have used to make doing the enrollment process a bit faster. How it impacts us as volunteers is when we are referring someone to the website who wants to register for our classes, it houses our wait lists, which allow us to ask immediately as they fill in information if they will give their permission for us to put them on our newsletter. Now, we've always had newsletters. That's nothing new. However, one where the students are receiving or prospective students are receiving biweekly information about us, it's already getting them engaged in being a student here before they've even joined the process as a whole. They see what our programming is. They see how we celebrate the accomplishments of our students because we put biweekly success stories in there. So it's a form of marketing, but a form of community gathering in a digital way. It also allows us with our paper application to streamline the process of helping them identify, not only could you do this, you probably could benefit from a computer class. Are you in the workforce? Do you know how to use a mouse? They may know how to use their phone, and we've talked a little bit about those things, but this allows them to either work with a loved one or when they come in here and ask for assistance, for us to be able to show them how to fill in the information. It minimizes how often we have difficulty reading others' handwritings. We have talked in past meetings about penmanship going to the wayside for a lot of people because we do depend so much on the technology. How are we effectively enrolling our potential students if we can't discern if it's an L or a T or an I, and they're not literate enough to write in some capacities? They at least have the assistance of those who can type and put the information in a little more clearly. But with all that data, things that we still have to physically print out and still put in hard, tangible files, how do we get all of that together in one place where if the executive board needs quick reporting, how do we find that faster? We have a system for our student retention management as well as tutor or volunteer management called LACES. And although LACES has training, sometimes if you have not been trained effectively enough, it can be a little difficult to find feedback in there or numbers. It is possible because it's built that way. But for an office volunteer, and you're just helping out in this capacity, now it's just 3 or 4 simple clicks. You know, to go to this area here, pick this word, pick this time frame, and they're able to be a part of how we report on retention, how we retain the feedback from students to know what type of program they wanted, which is why you've seen an influx of GED students, not just because of changes outside of our outreach partners in our home base, but because of what they've said they're aspiring towards. And now we have the data quickly available, and it even creates really pretty reports that we are able to turn over for grant purposes. As you all are fully aware now, everything we do is not only for the impact of the community and our students at large, but for the assurance of information being provided in an effective manner to argue the necessity of why we do what we do. So it's very empowering to have them in a training now where it's at their own pace. It is audio, it is multiple choice, and they're able to answer those questions. And within a week, they are empowered to be able to assist us in new ways. We've seen an increase of how many office volunteers we have, but as a volunteer-driven organization, we're always seeking more. If that is something you are interested in exploring, as the certificate that you get with it follows you wherever you go, we count those training hours, which are 3 hours and 25 minutes accumulatively, and we put that into our end of the year reporting. We want to show just how effective we are in our training. It goes over spreadsheets, extremely similar to Excel. So if you have any familiarity with that already, it won't look as confusing. It can be confusing because there's almost always 2 ways to access the information, but it also allows us to share notes amongst the team much faster. If it's on paper, we may have put it on a case study note, or we may have put it on a Post-it and put it in a file, and then the Post-it can unadhese itself and get lost. But with this, now we have it where we can go right in, find the information, and say, oh, Crystal was the last person to communicate with this student by email, and we see it in LACES, and we can compare the information. So we know for certain how many times we've printed things or how many times we've tried to reach out to someone. So maybe you're not interested in the office, and there's nothing wrong with that. But you have been hearing about citizenship. Like, oh, there's so many changes. And I heard during the last meeting that there's not the citizenship instructor training anymore at the state level. What's going on with that? There are new developments happening regularly with our current administration, and you have to be quickly adaptable. But for those who have the heart and the interest to be able to help those who want to go through the naturalization process, there's a multitude of steps that help them gain comfort and things that we can inform you in to gain strength in being able to share it. Being trained in citizenship facilitation is not a very difficult training, but they do want to make sure that you're aware of some key points. Miss Sally and I spent a moment last summer learning, and she was doing it as a refresher, but it was my first time. Yeah, that was your first time? What? So Miss Sally's first time was my first time too. So she said she never could get there before. We went to a museum in New Orleans, the World War II Museum, and we were enwombed in this amazing, just motivating environment to learn more. And our facilities, be it here at Emily Court or any of our outreach, that's their womb too. Their safety net comes from learning in the environments they're already familiar with. We will be having facilitation and other opportunities for them to ask generalized questions. They might not know where to go online, but they trust you. And you'll be more informed. But maybe you're saying, no, I want to teach this. I like talking about history. It's kind of cool to me. Or I've been through this process and I know how intimidating it can feel. How do I help empower our students? USA Hello is an online organization. It is a nonprofit. USA Hello has been very, very involved in reaching out to us and other organizations in Greater Houston to inform them that they are a free resource for tools for citizenship and for GED. Now, we have a robust GED program, but what they are doing and reaching out to us for, and we are awaiting proper confirmation, they want us to be the premier location for training our team for citizenship. They are one of the few left who can do so, as currently it is not an available option just to go on the USCIS site. It is of no cost to us. It is the only cost of sweat equity. They're going to make it where it's a process that you can learn within a day or two. So it's not a heavy commitment and providing you with the resources that have already been created by the government. Miss Sally and I snatched a whole bunch of good resources, flashcards and booklets and things that you could easily and almost always request for free online. Right now, that's a little bit difficult, but they have a storehouse of it. So they are going to equip you with what you need to be able to do so.
And you still get resources on the USCIS, all the
Limited. Yes, ma'am. Now, to be clear about this, once the training is available, I do not believe it's until May. So it will be towards the end of this academic year, but they want it to be an ongoing opportunity so that they can serve us in that capacity. Now they're Houston, but they want to be able to make sure they can come and meet your need if you need that training. They are still reviewing the proper way to market and explain these details. The words that were simplified and easy to use just a couple of months ago have pivoted. And in that, you have to change the way you instruct when you teach it. Some words may seem the same and mean the same, but now you got to embrace synonyms. So they're still working on that. But I will keep you all updated as much as possible about that opportunity so you can learn. Yes, ma'am.
So just listening to you, are you would we be like going to be available to do some support at different outreach sites like Rand Parkway, if they had a group of citizen people that were eligible but had lots of questions? We're gonna also take the show on the road in terms of
We would be looking to train our tutors first.
Yes, but I'm talking about, you said there were also gonna be some groups that like the support circles. some
That would be
groups.
through our beta program.
Yeah.
Yes.
Program. So that could be also done at, sitting here next to Grand Parkway
Yes.
thinking, you probably have people that are eligible
Yes,
that have questions.
absolutely. What Miss Sally is alluding to, we have briefly mentioned but not gotten into detail, and you may have seen it in a past email newsletter, that the Houston Endowment and a few other organizations were unifying to really assist in facilitating in-person and remote, for their safety and peace of mind, conversations about the naturalization process, advising and just encouraging them to explore it so that they are staying compliant and staying informed. This was one thing that was just a conversation that was going to happen in person, but through the conversations and meetings Sally and I have had, Miss Deidre, Miss Ruby, and those particular professionals involved, we'll be able to move this around to other locations to help and support you for those students who are interested. Quite often people say, well, I can't get to Sugar Land, and that's fine, but we want to be available in the ways that we can be. As those things are further detailed, such as who the facilitators are and the coordinators, everyone will be informed so that you know who you can get in touch with and be able to assist in getting those opportunities organized. You know your students intimately, and they may express things to you that they don't feel comfortable telling Principal Ashley. I don't know why they think I'm the principal. Laughing, but they think I'm Principal Ashley, but they're sharing their heart with you and the matters of their heart they trust you with. And I hope that you feel comfortable in saying, yeah, we've got you covered in that. Just allow me to get the information. We know that communication can be extra ambitious, but not always as cohesive or consistent as you hope. And it's not a reflection of ignoring you in no way, shape, form, or fashion. In nonprofit, as we've said before, you're working in a space of urgency and in some aspects, trauma care. So the information can come very fast, but it might change before we can get it down to you. So we thank you in advance for the patience that you all are showing on a consistent basis with having questions, having thoughts and ideas, and not immediately having the answer at that time. We have a question in the chat that says, will the citizenship offering be an entire semester course? How often will the instructor need to meet with the student? Currently, the way that the classes have been facilitated as such is we are getting you to your interview date. However, we are seeing that we have more students who are able to retain the information in English, as the test has to be in English exclusively now. They're retaining the information to be able to answer the appropriate questions and then turning back around and spending more time with the instructor to really enrich themselves in understanding what the history is of the country. Currently, you're looking at some students who are with you for a matter of 1 to 2 months, as they often already have their interview date set. They have submitted application, things have been assessed and approved, and they have received a document that says that they are physically coming in for their naturalization process on XYZ day. But as we work with these committees that we've been talking about for a while, and you'll know who your committee people are today, as we work on these committees, we want to look at making this more quantifiable. When we were all in school, we went for an academic year and you learned what you learned at that time. As adults, they're looking for more expediency. I need a job yesterday. I need my citizenship confidence now, and I can come back and revisit X, Y, and Z. We're not making those changes today. That's far too abrupt, but we are planning for 25, 26 to take those things into consideration. Susan, you'd be great to have some input on how to develop that in a way that could work out. I'm gonna find you. I'm gonna talk to you. So those things are coming. I just wanted to at least entice you with the information so that if you do have more questions, we're able to jot those down and ask those as they are developing that training program. But again, we do know in confidence that it will be no cost to us. They courted us because I aggressively courted them. So if they're willing to meet us in that capacity, then we're willing to see what they have to say on paper before we roll that out to you all. Other questions, comments, concerns regarding Jotform Academy or citizenship training? Delightful. Although it won't be shared here, I will make sure to put the links in the video description and the recap. We have a library, AKA a storage space at one point in time post-COVID. Many of you have contributed books or encouraged your students to step in there, but it can be overwhelming. How do I find the teacher tools that I need? What do you even have in here? During spring break, we started with a website called Librarica, Librarika. Librarica.com is a free library organization tool for agencies just like us. When we go to our Fort Bend County libraries, some of our students have not had the joy yet of experiencing being in the library and knowing all those resources. But when we all went, we learned Dewey Decimal. We learned how to find a book and card catalog. I loved it, which is why my first few weeks here when I joined the organization, the library immediately grabbed my heart. I loved being in there as a kid, and I loved being in Borders and all the other bookstores because that tangible knowledge is irreplaceable. However, if you just get here and we tell you, let's take our class, like Miss Pam does with her class, Miss Pam Johnson takes the class to the library and encourages them to get their library card. But who's taking the time at these libraries now to make sure you know how to find a book? They get you the card and they say, here's a sheet. And you're like, you can go to that computer there. What do I do when I'm there? Those library skills, those tactile search skills are assumed. And that's digital literacy that we can't afford to assume people know. But we have a library here, and we have 8 partnership locations who in turn have libraries as well. We have a catalog now that we will first give to the tutors for you to be able to go in, type what you're looking for, and it will let you know how many of the resources we have. Some of you have been here in the afternoon and evenings and have seen some of our office volunteers sitting with this little laptop right here, typing stuff in left and right. We can search by title, by subject, even by ISBN. We know how many we have. We know how old the book is. And we also are able to exchange those with other outreach locations. For those who are looking for workforce opportunities, this is a chance for them to learn cataloging, data. The words are there, but the skills are simplified. They are more empowered to learn at the environment they're in. So when they go to the big deal library, they know exactly what to do. The catalog is 100% free. It costs us nothing. And we will, after today's meeting, send you the link so that you can explore it. It is not complete. But what we have completed thus far, I believe we have some 112 items in there, and we can put over 2,000. That's just 2 shelves. That's the leisure reading shelf and some of our venture books for teachers edition, some of our dictionaries that are multilingual. It's really exciting, but they're also able to take charge of that. So it could be another workshop space for your class. If you've gotten to the end of your curriculum, I don't know what else to do with them. We're in class just talking. Okay, let's talk about our library. Let's talk about how we get you excited about going to one of our great libraries in the county and getting your card and going in there with more confidence than you had before. Let's look at what we have. This book was made in 1972. I was born in 1976. What about this book has changed? Giving them that ownership of what we already have here for them gives them more of a reason to be here, gives them more of a reason to experience other things that they can say. I have some books at home. You don't have any little kid books here. My kid's 14 now, and I don't have any other, like there's no grandchildren or anything. What can I do with these? Let's bring them in and let's catalog them. Let's show you how to do that. Alumni and student retention. Alumni, once they go, and we have to fight to hunt them down. But if we feel like there's something more for them to do here, it might not be as difficult. And being a friend of the library, of the place that helped you develop the skills that let you step forward in life, it's empowering in a way that we may have missed. So we're going to really lean into it. So it is an activity. And at this point, you can't complete the activity here because you're unable to get on the account. but you will be able to sign yourself up just as you would any other thing. Your first name or initials if you want, it's internal, and your email. That way you can log into this platform. Those grammar books that we talked about, which we had an awesome grammar workshop recently, or the book club books that are still in there. You were thinking of other ways to connect with your students. Now you don't have to keep your fingers crossed, look at the counter or the bookshelves and say, it might be in there. Now you'll know. This also allows us to share the resources we have a little bit more actively with our outreach partners. You all are a part of who we are. And although we might have offsets of other skills and other areas that we serve, the literacy part is what unifies us the most. So being able to interchange those books and whatnot, they're learning simple skills that allow them to interact with the home office more often and back and forth. And then it motivates them to step into their community and use those libraries more. There is not a curriculum designed around this. It's a little premature for that. We don't teach library studies, but it is an area of literacy we don't want to ignore. So I just want to make sure to tell you so you're getting excited about it. And if you ever see, it's usually our younger ones, our like 22-year-old, 21-year-old who are doing volunteer hours, you usually will see them in there, sitting there and they're clacking and they got books. That's what's taking place. That's what's happening. Any questions about the library? I'm excited about it. I'm super excited about it because it's exciting to see what we do have in there. There's some books I had no idea. We have Bridge to Terabithia. Do you remember reading that? We have Bridge to Terabithia, and then we have the teacher edition. So for those advanced students who are ready to explore text a little bit more, maybe you have some basic literacy where they've reached a point where they're able to read something a little longer. It might take them the full academic year, but now a teacher edition is already in there to help facilitate certain conversations and expand their comprehension. There's good stuff in there, but who knew we had it? Only those who touch it. So now you'll be able to find it easier. Now it's time for a little bit of learning, active learning, not just me talking to you. Recently, through USA Hello, we participated in an online meeting about integrating digital tools in citizenship education. Although this focuses on citizenship education, I specifically want to point out some things that you may not have been aware of that can help you in the classroom. So oftentimes you hear the students say, well, when I leave class, I don't practice, or I use Duolingo. Are there any other tools you've heard your students mention that they use for their English learning or for their grammar learning? So I know about Duolingo and I've heard a lot of people say ChatGPT, but anyone on the chat or anyone in here, any other things you may have heard of? Yeah, sure, please.
Yeah, my students have a group chat where they send each other like random YouTube videos.
Oh, they send YouTube videos, so they use WhatsApp?
Yeah, they're using WhatsApp to send YouTube videos,
That's cool.
any topic, totally random topic. Like counting to 1 million. Like what was one?
Counting to a
No,
million.
like numbers up to 1 million.
That's pretty cool. Anything else anyone has heard? My students have been using something called Kahoot. I love Kahoot, Miss Sally. Kahoot is kind of like a quiz show on steroids, but they're able to access it from computers, tablets, and other devices. And Kahoot can be survey activities. We won't do it today since this is not quite the usual way we navigate our monthly meeting, but next month you all will experience a Kahoot. I wanted to make sure you were prepared. I didn't just want to thrust you into a game today, but we will do a Kahoot. Kahoot is spelled K-A-H-O-O-T as in Tom. And
Those people that use pictures and are on the Venture
yeah,
link, the website,
they have Kahoots.
And they have some.
Absolutely. Kahoot is spelled K-A-H-O-T-T. And somebody said, my daughter uses Kahoot in junior high. Yeah. Yes.
It's wonderful.
It's stressful.
It's stressful, but you can also find Kahoot videos already created on YouTube.
And Venture.
Yeah, so specifically aligning with some of our books, but other topics of exploration. I've used it for Disney. Most of the students I taught for English for Professionals, all but 2 out of a 16-person class online had children. So they were certainly familiar with Disney. So it would give them a word or something and they had to answer by identifying the proper shape. There's a lot of different skills that go into that expand the literacy aspect. My daughter used Kahoot in junior high too. Good. I have also heard of some people who have used Quizlet. I'm familiar with Quizlet for studying wine. I would not be able to answer those questions without Quizlet. Quizlet is spelled Quizlet. And Quizlet is another free resource for you to be able to create online flashcards and study tools for civic questions sometimes. All the things that we have always done in hands-on ways, they still matter. But we have witnessed our students not take an ounce of a note in class whatsoever. They are learning through assumed osmosis. They don't know how to take notes. But for us as the adults and the facilitators of these classes, these are skills we've already learned because our education has advanced us in those ways. So if we have those who don't have that tactile understanding, how do we still give them those things that we know scientifically and in the evidence of our own lives works? We pivot it digitally. We link up with the volunteers or the other instructors who are familiar and start sharing those resources. Almost everyone has a smartphone, not everyone, but for those who do, this is not an app that they have to find. It's something they can simply go on to. There's more learning involved in that and the possibility of a literacy council app of its own. So all these things are accessible, but those are things to think about in the future. Most immediately is just knowing where these tools are. So we will share in our recap next week of our newsletter from today's meeting, not only the link to this video, but in Pro Literacy and this PDF. You'll be empowered with this information so that you can click and explore it at your own pace. Me sitting here rambling off things like Anki, Quizlet, Scorative. Who? That's a little overwhelming when you can't touch it and see it on your own. But these conversations that we're having about it get you excited. They entice you to it. Some of these things will be tested out with you as the tutors because I want to see what you know about our history, what you remember from our past meetings, what the chain of command is. We've talked about these things in videos, but why not create something that allows you to refresh your memory in those ways? These organizations change and adapt quickly. I've only been here 11 months, 10 and a half. I'm sorry, I jumped the gun. 10 and a half months. But while I've been here, there's been changes in more tutors, faces you've never seen before, all these new tools and whatnot. I want to be able to make sure that you have it too, so that you can strut around and say, look at this online class we have as tutors that gives us a review of what it is we do. You all have so much experience in your classrooms and your time volunteering here. Being able to share that through your own voices and your own communication with the newer volunteers who are joining, it makes them feel a part of what's going on. It's not just a passive thing where I come in, I share my time, I'm proud of my students, and I get on out. It gives you another way to pour in, which successfully allows us to pivot into pouring in through committees. I'm so excited that so many of you were also excited to step up and share how you would like to support growth and the longevity of our organization through committees. Past meetings and past newsletters shared that we would be establishing committees to support different needs and different areas of opportunity in the agency as a whole. We had several volunteers who would like to share their capacities and serve in those ways. So I want you to be familiar with who those people will be. And those volunteer committees, they will make their own efforts to reach out to you and coordinate other things. Again, all things that are shared verbally right now will be in writing as well, so that you can look at it at your own time. But I want you to be excited about it. You might not have the time to do it now, but you might be excited about doing it in the fall if you're still with us, which of course we hope you're always with us. So volunteer committee details. I'm belching left and right. Forgive me. Volunteer committee details. We have Miss Sigrid Walker stepping up with David Ciarella as GED math support. Although we do have other GED classes, Ms. Sigrid's specific focus is trying to encourage the tutors who are interested in online instruction, how those classes work when you're teaching something as concrete as math. So they will be assisting in that way. And David has already physically come and observed another new math tutors class to provide pointers and just camaraderie to let you know that you're not out here alone in those capacities. Miss D. Graham is back and will be subbing. She's not all the way here yet, but we're happy to have her. She's subbing for some of the GED math, but I know she has insights that'll be great as well. We also have, just clicked the screen too fast. Miss Petula Workman, who is in our Katy location as well as here. Ms. Petula will be working alongside Dr. Mike for ESL 0 and 1. And she will also be assisting as an outreach engagement volunteer. So she'll be meeting with Miss Ruby to see other ways where we're able to connect with the volunteers at our other spaces so that we're having more time to hear what their thoughts and feedback could be or are and do something with it. We also have Ms. Ida Carter, who will be helping with outreach engagement too, specifically on the data side of it. She wants to be able to assist with creating template responses for emails and things to help make it more efficient and faster for Ms. Ruby to be able to respond in ways that we frequently get as questions in that regard. Ms. Nidra Brooks is here, and she will be assisting with community involvement. Now, what that means is you all have birthdays, anniversaries of volunteerism, other things that might be going on that you might need a card or just someone to touch base and see how you're doing. Or maybe you all want to get together for a snack one day. She'll be helping in those ways to help you feel more than just, I'm sharing my time as a volunteer. She's uniting you all as a community of adults as well who have your own personal interests and your own friendships that you might want to explore. We have Miss Sally, who will be assisting as the lead for basic literacy. She's one of our most trusted authorities in it. And I know I wax poetic about it because I've got to see her do it at Grand Parkway for my first workshop with tutors. The way that she's able to break the information down, anyone can feel empowered with it. So she will be your point person for that. We have Miss Padma, who will be stepping up in a volunteer capacity for outreach engagement as well. There are still other opportunities to explore. Some of you retroactively through your feedback forms have gone back and said, wait, like, I think I could do something about this. Case in point, it's been in conversations, but not on paper, but I like telling y'all stuff that we converse about. We have a student who is at a collegiate level of comprehension. And when she realized that she was beyond the scope of what the classes are here, she got very motivated to become a volunteer. Her out of learning work experience is podcasting, being able to interview other tutors and talk about what you're doing in your classroom. It's short snippets, not long videos, not hour conversations, but things that you can quickly listen to and glean knowledge from your peers, as well as our students who are willing to share their stories in more ways. It supports our marketing team and being able to get those things that we can start populating on our website for future development and our YouTube channel that has been growing. So there's areas that we didn't even identify that others are like, we should do that. I have the voice and the equipment. God bless it, bring it, because I don't want to look for it. So we do have those things happening. But if there are other areas that you've identified and you're like, I have something more to bring than just what I have, or I have the capacity to at least facilitate the knowledge and then y'all do what you can with it, please don't hesitate to make time to talk about it. I know that we have an open door policy and I have aggressively championed making sure that we have appointments and things. That open door still remains. I can never get rid of who we are at our core. But when it's those things that you know we really need to discuss and you've got a lot of detailed thoughts, I don't want to give you partial attention. It's so inconsiderate. And I want to be able to hear what you're saying so that I can do my part and look into it and see how I need to let Miss Deidre or the rest of the team know, or speak with those who might have additional knowledge so that we can make it a more impactful, more beneficial experience. Yes, ma'am.
See that you have, two people for ESL 0 and 1. Are you still looking for people to do the higher level?
We are still looking for oh,
Oh, no, I'm sorry, it was a question.
oh, I'm like, oh, we're still looking for other levels. So although we concluded what we had for the first round, I will extend that because some of you are exploring what you want to do in the fall, which, by the way, if you know you're coming in the summer, let me know. We want to start getting that on the schedule so that we don't get caught off guard when May opens for registration. But yes, please, what's your question?
Oh, it was gonna be, are you gonna tell what the open ones are? And then
Yes.
also, are you including like the conversation class
Yes, we are.
in the curriculum, or is that getting its own thing?
It will have its own space
Okay.
because you all are experiencing different needs.
Yeah.
Conversation class has grown tremendously this academic year. And that's not to say that it never existed, but we're experiencing very different things in our conversation class. Your conversation class, my conversation class versus yours versus Miss Cheryl's are very different. One of our instructors, because of her professional background as a social worker, she's able to navigate conversations in a different way with them that get them to open up and their vocabulary has expanded. Mine, as a person who's been an immigrant before, is very different from someone who's always been here, and the conversations we're having about homesickness and what kind of words they'll conjure up and how do you unify your new culture with your original culture and the new person you are. Or Mr. Jeff's class, how they were talking about who's more effective in non-verbal communication, ants or humans. What? These conversations are vast. The vocabulary is amazing, but you can't fall into, these are the needs of ESL. As digital literacy, it grows, and as literacy as a whole, the definition evolves. What we're identifying from the academic standpoint, and I won't go too deep because not everyone's an educator. You are sharing your time. But what we're identifying is ELL, English language learners, still have a distinct difference from ABE, adult basic education. Our GED students, yes, they can converse, but what's first and third person? We spent an hour and a half in a 2-hour class yesterday on that. And they were jolted by how to communicate that. Those basic education needs go hand in hand with basic literacy and English language learning acquisition. Ooh, I get to be nerdy for a moment. So talking about those things, we want to make sure we're making this something that is digestible for you all. We cannot just throw you in this because you got some nerd in the seat now saying, these are the things we need. Ashley, how do you make that easy for me to turn around and make for my class? Yeah, you got the book acumen. Good for you, boo-boo. But how do I explain this in a way where you can see that light bulb turn on? Like my basic literacy student who I keep talking about, who learned the long and short A vowel sound, and I saw it happen. I've got it. I had to hold back tears. It was the coolest thing to see that moment happen for a 62-year-old woman to learn from a 40-year-old woman. So we want to be able to talk about those things in a digestible way where you don't feel like you're thrown into it and you feel like you're getting proper feedback to know that what you're doing is working. They keep coming back to class because they like the environment, but they love you. And that love extends beyond, she had me read this in a book. I can't read it, but she's adorable. So we want to make sure to get you all the time that you need over the next few months and over the next academic year. These transitions impact us all, and they're not to change or reinvent the wheel. They're just to make sure we got tighter bolts on it that are meeting the needs of the new terrain we're navigating. So I will make sure to put in the newsletter next week what still remains as areas of opportunity. It also quantifies what that commitment is. We're not looking for you to tie on a whole nother class, but being able to connect with one another, those things matter. And it takes the pressure off of the leadership. Not that the pressure is so excruciating that we can't help, but we want to be more effective and more impactful about how we navigate getting the feedback you have, having enough time to look it over and be able to get you what you need. That might be new books. That might be a new classroom because the environment you're using and how you're envisioning connecting with your students might need a circle and not everyone facing a traditional board. Logistics go into planning just as much as the curriculum. So now, which we have never done, but I want to make sure, we usually have questions, but I wanted to make sure there was enough time to really ask other things you may have had. Every single meeting has been so thoroughly flat, like this is the time, this is the time. And you only have about 10 to 12 minutes of questions or feedback. I wanted to make sure you had more time now to share what was on your mind or observations you had so that we can take appropriate notes. So the floor is open both remotely and in person for anything that you may have, questions, comments, concerns, feedback. Had you heard about, have you looked into, so that we can start making good notes. She said, ooh, I don't know. Yes, please.
Is there a form for the summer classes, or do you just want like a verbal confirmation?
I think it might, well, some tutors have popped in my classroom and they're not my classroom, my office, my goodness. And they say, hey, you know, I'm traveling this summer, but I'll see you in the fall. But if you know, we can do that now. I was just gonna wait until next week's newsletter to at least give a recap of this and start finding out. Those classes are June 9th until May 11th. And it's, yes, ma'am.
Will it be like in the past, it's been current students, we haven't added
Yes,
new
ma'am.
students
Yes.
in the summer, is that the same plan?
Yes,
Okay.
don't want to change that because that's what's worked for everybody.
Right.
So we will be maintaining that as it always has been. But you might be interested in exploring a different subject or something else. You're like, I can do that for 6 weeks instead of what my usual class may be. And I'm open to that.
Or
Very
there may
open to
be
that.
some opportunities for outreach people
Yes.
to come in because maybe the person who's been doing the class is going to wherever and they need
Yes.
somebody, but they still have ESL 1 or 4 or whatever students who are interested.
Absolutely. And we'll be making sure that there's opportunities for training during those days. Having the trainings that have taken place in person recorded so that people can passively listen to it and observe, it's helpful, but there are some things that just simply can't be done remotely. Sometimes you need the actual in-person opportunity to learn. So we want to continue making sure that you have those dates well in advance so you can plan accordingly for your needs.
I have a suggestion
Yes.
about the trainings.
Mhm.
I know that you put in the title, but not descriptions, and I think historically, we put in descriptions, and I think they've been better attended.
Yes, ma'am.
Because you only I know that, you only had a couple of people, I was supposed to be there, but I couldn't come to your grammar one. But I think if you had, a description of what it was,
Okay.
that maybe people get a better understanding.
Yeah, I agree.
For mine, I think just the title, like, unless you, I had an idea you didn't really understand. So,
Understood.
that would be my suggestion in the future. And I know in the past, when Ruby was coordinating, if those were put in there and that we did have better attendance, the people
Knew what it was.
Yeah. Mhm.
Not a
Yeah.
problem. So we'll go back to that without a shadow of a doubt. Something that was shared by 3 students and a volunteer. Yes, we're not a community college and we are not emulating that at all. But what we experienced during registration is people often saying, well, what time are the classes? We're asking in our application when they do things if they can take classes in certain windows of time. But we have seen through the efforts of Crystal, looking at other community colleges, a way to be able to add to our website where they can see this is the class, these are the times, so they can kind of plan a little bit more proactively in their registration process. It does not allow them to click and register themselves. We're not at that is a lot and that asks a lot. But it makes the conversations we have during the enrollment process before they come in and are assessed a little bit more effective. Just by making that one question change on our application, it made it easier for us to register people for certain classes. But we have a lot of classes that might take place at the same time, and they might not have the availability, and now they're on a wait list and they're waiting and they're waiting and they're waiting. We want to really advocate for staggering the time differently. Some of you have heard me say this to you in person or you've heard it in passing. you don't get a chance to have community and you don't get a chance to really observe anything. You kind of just see each other in the hall and dip out. If our classes that are Mondays and Wednesdays are from 9 to 10:30, then the next one needs to start at 11. We need to make sure there's time for people to get out of our parking lot so that you can find a parking space. You that's sorry. We need to make sure there's time for you to get out of the parking lot. Or you might know another instructor who's speaking or teaching at the same time as you, and you want to chat with them. And you have a busy life outside of here, but you got 10 minutes after class. That gives you the chance to do it. There's some other radical ideas that have been discussed. We have not made decisions and we never will without looking at all of the logistics. But we have staggered schedules outside of here in the K through 12. That might be something we explore here. We might have it where certain weeks are solely for the ESL and basic literacy students. But what about our pre-GED students who need basic literacy? And it's on the same day as this, and this. Those kind of things have been discussed, but nothing is concrete on March 26th. There's a lot of semester still left to really think about different approaches and how that works with the availability you have already expressed that you have with us. But those are just some things that have been suggested by others and some things that I was thinking about that I just wanted to spitball out there. Any other ideas, questions, comments, concerns? Yes, ma'am, please.
You have mentioned in your newsletter about spirit days.
Yes.
So,
We have some tutors who have said, you know, it just, I want to be able to celebrate my students a little bit differently and they have their own end of semester moments. Or they're saying, you know, when is coffee and conversation going on, which is so much fun. But when is coffee and conversation going on? It'd be great if I could be here. I know we don't teach other languages, but on Friday, like you speak Korean, I want to learn that actually, or those kind of things. Having opportunities to have those planned in advance so that you can kind of know about it. We would like to explore that. We know that on the operations side of the facility, we're looking at things where there's certain restaurants and whatnot where our students and our volunteers can go and make their purchases that day, and those donations in kind go towards us. But it also injects us more into the community. It's also been expanded that where there's almost always some fun run walk or things of that sort that goes on. Have we ever had it where our students have a team of their own, or we have one volunteer who wants to be a part of a small group, so that the Literacy Council is not just known by word of mouth, but by actual physical presence. You see a team member or a volunteer in the proper shirt, and the rest of the students who are there who are united in one cause, breast cancer walks, March of Dimes. Those things don't cost us very much to start planning for, to incorporate as other opportunities to be involved beyond just this in our volunteerism and our outreach. Other ideas, questions, comments, concerns? Yes, please.
update on the shirts that we can purchase.
Yes, we do have an update. So this past week we had, we got a good comment in the Zoom chat. This past week we had our executive board meeting and we are quickly heading towards reading between the lines. We have an e-shop. I believe it'll be available right before our volunteer appreciation. Miss Deidre is doing the final glances over everything, but we have a sturdier bag with a real solid bottom. We've got some caps. We have a regular t-shirt, as when we do our outreach and promotions during the summer. The polos are nice, but sometimes you just need something that can get dirty. For the volunteers, we have a different blue and white polo in men and women, and they go all the way up to 4XL and 2XS. Didn't even know that was a size. But we have those as options. Our board will have nice things too. There's also some drawstring bags on there. So she's looking over everything, but the very cool part about it is the fact that your contribution, if you so decide to select those items, a portion of the transaction comes right back to the organization as a donation. So it's always pouring back in just as much as you are. Before we jump to the other in-person thing, Ms. Seeger said, I'm available to teach this summer. Woohoo! Ms. Petula said, Mike and I want to schedule a level 1 instructor gathering, April topic, warm-ups. Hoping for April 25th, 10 a.m. to 11, but they're going to work on it. And she shared her contact information, and I'll make sure to share that as well in the newsletter. Other thoughts, ideas? Yes, ma'am.
Do y'all have any car stickers?
Oh, I love a good
Oh,
vinyl.
it's-
Car stickers, not necessarily bumper stickers. The vinyls are a little
Like
nicer.
for glass, like, or
Yeah.
like a magnetic
That
sticker.
could be kind of cool to
wrap
look
in-
into, especially with our logo being as cute as it is.
Like you could do really cute things with literacy.
Yeah. Well, we could look into that, y'all. That's cool.
I'd buy one.
I would too.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Hey,
I
might
honestly
screw
would.
up
I honestly would. We have volunteer appreciation coming for clarification purposes, albeit it was on the calendar. That is wrong to just assume everybody looks at that calendar as obsessively as I do. It is a closed day for students. So you are comfortable here and can joyfully interact with others instead of feeling that you have to say, oh, let me check in with the student. So your the volunteer appreciation date is April 23rd. I do believe it's a Wednesday. Yes, it's a Wednesday, and we have 2 different times available for your convenience. It will be here. I had a sassy comment. Somebody said, oh, so it's here because we're losing budget. I want y'all here. It's not because of a budget thing at all. I want you here because this is home base. And it's nice to step out, but we have some volunteers who are only here once or twice a week or once a week. They don't even get to really see all the resources that are here. So, yeah, so I want you here. Yeah, exactly. Outreach babies like, come on, Michael Jackson, come on. I want you here. I want you to see our space. And also it reinforces your awareness of what our capital campaign goals are for. When you can see it, we've got students who want to paint and everything. I want that, but I want you to see how we are managing all these students, almost 600 students in the spaces that we have. So come on here, please. It's all right.
And did it, remembering there's gonna be 2 times.
Yes, ma'am. There will be 2 times available. Yep. It's been in our newsletter and also in our, yes, ma'am. And also in our hallway, here at our, by the registration office in our glass case, we do have the form there that shows it. Off the top of my head, I don't, unfortunately. I apologize. Yeah. 10 to 12 and 6 to 8. I love you. So she already has it. It's 1:55. Obviously, there's nothing wrong with concluding early, but I don't want to ignore any other things that may have crossed your minds. We have in April some Friday, Saturday training experiences. They are not the only ones. If your schedule is already nice and jam-packed and you can't squeeze in another thing, that's perfectly fine. The next training will be in July. That's your pro-literacy, basic literacy, or ESL tutor certifications, or for office volunteers, it's your office essentials. It is not enough to assume that everyone has the same understanding of how to approach things. This does not give you the rules, but it gives you foundation. This is how you navigate mixed level basic literacy classes. This is how you navigate ESL classes where a student might be more advanced than the other. Some of our volunteers have taught at a collegiate level, and they take their personal experiences with that and impose it upon people who may never have been in college. Some have never been in college at all, but they have the ambition, and you got students who are sitting there bored. How do you navigate that in ESL classes? Those are our foundations of who we are, and those learnings can help you pivot in other areas. But again, if you cannot attend those in April, please do not feel like that is the end of the world. We will be doing these once a quarter. So there's opportunities to enhance our training hours. That again, without it being on the printout, I couldn't tell you, but it will be reiterated in all of the calendars. It's also on our pro literacy forums, but I will make sure to put that in the newsletters so you're aware again. Yes, ma'am.
About that, and I may have to other people.
Yes, yes.
So when I went to do pro literacy, because I signed up a long time ago.
Yes.
Year, I don't think it connected me to the one that's active now.
Oh,
But I don't know,
Oh.
so maybe you and I.
we
sit
should,
down, and that may have affected other people.
that's
who
valid.
signed up before.
So what was shared was that those who may have already done that training some
No,
time ago,
Not the training,
Yeah.
the pro literacy.
the account,
Account. Yeah.
It
When
might
I
not
go
be
in,
to
it
this.
looks like it's just me. I don't see.
You don't
the
see
other-
anything.
But I may not, but my digital literacy skills are not that wonderful. So it may be me not knowing how to navigate it, but I think I didn't feel like it connected me to what you were talking about
Mm,
because they already had me in their system.
okay.
So I don't, anyway.
I'm thinking
So
I
you
might
and I
need to
can talk.
contact their tech
You
person.
and I can look at it and
Yeah.
if that's what's going on, then it may affect other people.
This is valid. So go ahead. No, I'm just making sure they hear. If you had a pro literacy account previously, and I've mentioned all these things about forums and whatnot, you're like, don't see that, then it could be that it's not connecting you to our organization's active account. We have a tech person from them who I'm able to communicate that with, but I want to first make sure that it's not something that we can simply do on our end as a few clicks. So Miss Sally and I will explore that and then we'll provide proper follow-up because it might be out of our scope.
And
Second
if it's
thing.
just Miss Sally's digital literacy skills, we'll just acknowledge that.
Yes, ma'am.
They're about the alumni and getting them involved.
Yes,
One of the things that Grand Parkway does so well is
Yes.
people that graduate, they come back and they are classroom helpers.
yep,
So you have a second person in your class that's been through it and is, your language is great, but you have another body in there. That's really good with 0, 1, 2.
yes, it is.
So just another idea. And then you mentioned the student newsletters. Is there a possibility that we could get copied on that so we know
Sure.
what they're sent so we can reinforce it?
Yes, ironically, two things just in case you didn't hear. Grand Parkway, one of our outreach partners, has a tremendously successful alumni experience where they strongly encourage their students to come back and be classroom helpers. It keeps them engaged. It keeps other students motivated because now they have an example of someone who's been through what they've been through, and that's very helpful. The student newsletter, which goes out bi-weekly, it goes to current students, prospectives, and alumni. And it goes out on Thursdays. However, some of you aren't even seeing it. I didn't want to overwhelm you with a whole bunch, but what I can do is put a link from their newsletter into you all's newsletter. That way you're not getting 50,000 emails from Ashley. And if you're interested in seeing it, you can. So we'll do it that way so that you can see it. It worked out very well. Oh, please, yes, please, Ms. Mariana.
Yes. Well, I just want to make note that that is actually a really good idea because in sharing the link, it's a good teaching opportunity for my classroom to go over, hey, guess what? You received an email. Let's talk about it. It's a really good piece to go over in my instruction. Very good. I love
Absolutely.
it.
Thank you. One thing that worked out and we had no idea, one of our volunteers today was talking about, she's going to go over tongue twisters with our students. This week's newsletter had a video about tongue twisters. Their newsletter is always set the same way every time. It's similar to ours, how we always have some factoid. So it's a welcome message to them, a did you know, and a video resource from either academically backed organizations or very widely followed visual or audio podcasts for them to reinforce skills. Then it also has information about upcoming events or things they can register for, such as English at Work, a workshop we're doing here that they can attend remotely or in person. It talks about graduation. It has a section committed solely to GED students because now we will be doing rolling practice GED days. That way they are seeing just where their proficiency is and they're not just keeping their fingers crossed that they know. And it also has at the very bottom a section for success stories where we specifically shout out the student by first name and last initial or first name only and or location so that they know that their accomplishments are being acknowledged. We acknowledge, got a new job, got my library card, read a book to my children. I don't care what it is. A success is a success is a success. And if they can see examples of it for those who are unfamiliar, although examples are provided, being able to see it helps them further grasp that I do have things I've accomplished and I can talk about too. So I will make sure to share the links to those so that you can see the most recent ones. Thank you. Yes, please go ahead.
One more, the workshop that you have coming up for registration. will that be recorded and available for students? One of my students is asking not about the recording, but just about the workshop in general. My curiosity is if it's going to be recorded.
So English at work?
Yes.
I have not discussed it with the tutor. This tutor is a ED at another organization, not a nonprofit. She does it for HR purposes. So there's a possibility she might be open. It's a 1 hour class and it could be evergreen or reusable content for us, for those who can't attend. But
Okay.
I'll find out with her and see.
Okay. Thank
Yep,
you.
you're welcome. Any other questions or comments, concerns, thoughts? Yes, oh, no, that was this TP. I thought you had your hand up. My apologies. Well, then let's conclude on something empowering then. Every meeting that you've participated in, we always make sure to, gird you with the encouragement that you need, but we're almost at the finish line, everyone. The semester is almost done. You have endured so much. I'm very, very proud to continue to work alongside you and hear these thoughts and ideas you had. There has been a survey this past week's newsletter that had, not this past week, this current week's newsletter for your feedback for the semester. And it does specifically ask about, compared to last semester's experience, what has or has not changed or things. Please do not feel that you have to be soft in those areas. There was some very clear, very detailed concerns that were expressed by some about their feelings about the curriculum we are using, or what we've discussed in one-on-ones, or how you actually can make those kind of conversations more accessible to everyone, because not everyone has one-on-one time. I cannot meet your needs without your feedback. And it should take you no more than 2 to 5 minutes if you really got a lot to say, but we do need those things. We share those details, not your specific conversations, but those details about your satisfaction and your training experiences at the end of our fiscal year. And those things will probably start to be incorporated on our website. So those who are outside looking in, who want to contribute but can't volunteer, know what we're doing, know how we're doing it. So please share those things. Thank you for being adaptive. Thank you for being malleable in some ways. It's tremendous. It's such a positive experience with you all. And we've got just 2 more meetings to go before the academic year concludes. Thank you for all that you do and all that you will continue to do. Bye, everyone.